I think it would be a good idea to share the amount of dividends I received in 2019. I know a lot of people like dividends because it's a very passive income. So in this video, I'm going to show the amount of dividends I received in 2019 from Questrade, which has most of my accounts. And I'll also show, of course, from which stocks they came from. All right, so first step, I'm going to log into my account, Questrade here. So when I'm logged in, it brings me to my account management interface. If I want to go to my trading interface, I just have to click trade, but I want to look at my account activity for 2019 and dividends only. So I'm going to go under reports and then click on account activity. And then of course, I'm going to pick the 2019 period only. So date range, I'm going to go to January 1st, 2019, and I'll end it at December 31st, 2019. I'll give it a second for the transactions to load. And then over here, I'll deselect all and I'll just select dividends. So right away, you can see that I've received 81 dividends, 81 different dividends. Now I'm going to export to Excel so I can see the totals and then see from which stocks they came from. Okay. So export to Excel. So activities from January 1st. So activities from January 1st to December 31st. All right. Let's just format this a bit. So this is all dividends. I don't have to filter on dividends. I do want to filter on, I guess the symbol here doesn't always give you the symbol of the stock. I guess I can leave the description as is. Maybe just make it smaller here. Quantity, price, gross amount, commission. Obviously, there's no commission when you're receiving dividends. Net amount. Okay, I'll remove all this. I'll leave net amount. Currency, account number, activity, account type, not important. So I'll delete that. And in fact, I'll just put in a little formula here to convert the Canadian amounts, the US amounts to Canadian. So I'm just going to use an average rate of 1.32. So I'll quickly put a function here or a formula. So if this equals USD, then multiply it by 1.32. If not, just leave this as is. Actually, it's F2 that needs to be multiplied, not G2. And this has to be converted to numbers or else it won't read it. Convert to number, and then I'll just like to put it in accounting format so it looks better. And then extend the formula. I'm going to sort the description in alphabetical order. Remove settlement date. All right, so column C shows the local currency, and then column E shows the converted amount to Canadian. So if this is how much I want to know, this is how much I got in Canadian approximately. So I'm going to go through all of them quickly, but for those who just want to see the total, I can highlight the total right away. So you could see at the bottom here, the total amount of dividends in 2019 from my Questrade account is $2,000 Canadian, $2,070 Canadian. And with Questrade, I have a margin account, a TFSA, an RSP, and just recently an RESP. All right, so they're not in order by date, but they're in order by stock. So in 2019 with Activision, I got a dividend of $83, and that's actually one time. So, and this was on 200 shares. So this was most likely a covered call trade. So I actually bought this stock not for the dividends. I'm not a dividend investor. I do mostly covered calls in my registered accounts, and then I do put spreads in my margin account. But when I do covered calls, I end up buying 100 shares of the stock and selling call option against it. So when you own 100 shares of a stock, if you happen to own it during X dividend date, you're going to be getting the dividend. So this is what happened. I had 200 shares of Activision Blizzard when it was at X dividend date. So I happened to get the dividend for it. So on top of the covered call premium, I got the dividend. So that's an extra bonus. AltaGas I owned for a while. I had started it off as a covered call trade as well. And this was a monthly dividend, and I got $8 for it twice, but then I sold the stock. I think I sold it for a small profit. I got out of the trade, but while I had it, I collected $8 twice. American Airlines is a stock that I still own in my margin account. It's a covered call trade, and since I own the stock, so I'm getting dividends for it every 3 months. So for the 2019 year, I've received $11.22 three times from American Airlines. I used to own Apple for a short period in my margin account. This was a swing trade, so I bought it when Apple dropped almost to 142, but I didn't get the chance to buy at 142. I think I had an average price of 180 if I remember, but if I sold it like at 190, I didn't make that much from it. And obviously, if I had known that a year later would have been at 316. You know, that's a different story, but whatever. While I had Apple, I collected dividends from it. I only had 23 shares. I got $18 of dividends one time. AT&T was a swing trade initially. Yeah, it was always a swing trade. I only had 32 shares and I got $18 out of it once. Now, if you notice here, it says non-resident tax withheld. So because they were in so as Canadians, we don't get the full dividend payout if it's a US stock. I think about 15% is withheld, but you can claim part of it or all of it back when you do your income tax return as foreign taxes paid. Bank of Montreal was a swing trade as well. I had 11 shares, collected $11 while I was holding it. Bank of Nova Scotia was a swing trade as well. I had 14 shares, collected $11.90. Bed Bath & Beyond, I actually still own them. They are covered call trades. I've got a total of 300 shares and I got $19 once, and then the second time I got $57 because the first time I only had 100 shares, and then the second time I bought 200 more shares, so a total of 300. So the dividend was bigger. Blackstone was a swing trade and a dividend play because it paid really good dividends. I ended up selling it for a small profit, but in the meantime, I collected $23 of dividends. Bristol Myers was a covered call trade, so did not go into it for the dividends, went in for the call premiums collected. But at the same time, I got $46 of dividends while holding on to the stock for the covered call trade. Crescent Point Energy was a covered call trade. I had 300 shares, got $3 out of it. DFN, Dividend 15 Split Corp. This was definitely a dividend play. I only bought it for the dividends, and it's a monthly, it pays out dividends monthly. It's a mutual fund, and as you can see, I kept getting $16 from this stock or this mutual fund until I decided to sell it for a small capital gain so that I could use it to do more covered call trades. And so I got a total of $128 out of this dividend, out of this mutual fund, plus some capital gain. But in dividends, $128 from this mutual fund. I owned it in February, and it looks like I got out of it in August. I owned it in January, and I got out of it in August. Well, actually, if I got a dividend every month, I've got 8 dividends. Yeah, so I held on to it for 8 months. Dollarama was a swing trade. I got $1.12 in dividend. Thank you very much. Enbridge was definitely a swing trade and a good dividend play. I got $70 out of it in dividends. ExxonMobil was, if I remember, I think it was a swing trade. Yeah, ExxonMobil was a swing trade. And while I had it, I collected $12.88 of dividends. Financial 15 Split Corp was a dividend play. So I had it for 7 months, collected $16.97 each month. So that's a total of $118 in dividends. And I got out of this mutual fund for a small capital gain as well. Ford was a swing trade as well. Held it for a while. Honestly, I don't remember if I sold it for a profit or not, but I collected while I was holding it, I collected it for $81. I collected $81 of dividend. Freeport McMoran is a covered call trade. I think I just recently sold this stock, but while I had it, I collected $11.22 of dividends. GE was a covered call trade as well. Collected $1. Thank you. General Mills was a swing trade. Collected $16 while I had it. Goodyear was a covered call trade, but I lost money on this trade actually. Regardless, I got $18 almost of dividends. Halliburton is a covered call trade that I still own in my TFSA, and I collected $40 in dividends combined. Honda Motor was a swing trade that didn't go well. I ended up selling it for a loss, but while I had the stock, I collected $33 of dividends. Hudson's Bay was a swing trade that also did not go well. Collected $1 in dividends. Intel was a covered call trade which went well, and while I had it, I collected $35 of dividends. That's another advantage of covered call trades. You go in with the purpose of making your profit from the call premiums that you sell or collect, and sometimes you get a kicker of a dividend. So that's pretty good. So the ETF, the Qs ETF, which represents the NASDAQ, was a covered call trade in my TFSA. I collected $43 of dividend. Now this is an interesting one. You could see here, this is TLT. This is an ETF that tracks the 20-year bond rate, and I actually had to pay that dividend. I had to pay $72 US or $95 Canadian. So I actually lost the dividend here. I'm going to explain how this happened. This deserves its own video. But yeah, in this case, I had to pay out the dividend. Pretty frustrating. JP Morgan was a swing trade. Got $9 out of it in dividends. Kraft Heinz was a swing. It started off as a swing trade, and then I turned it into a covered call trade. So while I owned it, I collected pretty good amount here. I collected $285 of dividends, so that's not bad. I guess that's why Warren Buffett owns it. Kroger was a covered call trade, collected $18 in dividends. L Brands is a covered call trade. I still own it in my RSP, and pretty good actually. I've been collecting dividends every 3 months. Right now, I've collected $158 in dividends just by holding on to the stock. I'm down on the stock actually. I bought it at 26. It's trading at around 20, but I sell call premiums against it every month as much as I can. And as you can see here, I've been collecting dividends from it every 3 months. Macy's was a covered call trade that I lost on because my shares got taken away from me. But while I had Macy's, I collected about $127 in dividend. MasterCard was a swing trade, collected $2 in dividends. New York Mortgage Trust NYMT was a swing trade, was a dividend trade for sure. I've held it for a while, but I collected $76 in dividends. Nvidia was a swing trade. Nvidia was a covered call trade, collected $18 in dividends while I was playing Nvidia as a covered call trade. Six Flags was a covered call trade as well, collected $92 in dividends. In fact, Six Flags yield is pretty good. I think when I bought this covered call trade, or when I made this covered call trade, the yield was 6%. I think the yield now is even higher because the stock dropped a lot. It's trading in the 40s. I remember I bought it at 54, so it's a good thing I actually got out of this trade, because I'd be pretty disappointed if I still owned Six Flags shares and the stock's at some point I think it reached 37, 38. But yeah, I got $92 in dividends out of it. SNC was a covered call trade as well, collected $14 in dividends. TransCanada was a dividend play, collected $13 in dividends. It was a swing trade. TransCanada was a swing trade. I got out of it for a small profit, plus I collected $13 in dividends while holding on to it. United States Steel is a covered call trade that isn't going well, and while I still own the stock, I've been collecting dividends from it. I've collected a total of $72.93 in dividends. Vermilion Energy was a swing trade plus dividend play. I got out of it for a small loss, and I've collected $28 in dividends while I had it. I think it pays monthly dividends as well. Vodafone was a swing trade that did not go well, but I collected dividends from it. I've held it for almost a year. Collected $137 in dividends. This one's pretty good actually. Western Digital, I kind of like it. It was a very good covered call trade. I wish I still owned the stock because it has gone up way more. It has gone up a lot since then, but while I had the stock for that covered call trade, I received $112 in dividends. So as you can see, dividends are kind of fun because it's very passive. They just come in without you having to do anything. And in fact, on most of these stocks, my intention wasn't even to get the dividends. I was trading the stock, either swing trading it or doing a covered call trade on it. And I ended up accidentally timing it, and I owned the shares during X dividend date, and ended up collecting the dividend. Now, the reason why I don't necessarily like to continue with dividends, or my main purpose is not dividends, is because the yield isn't that great. A good safe stock will usually yield 4% dividend per year, and for my goal, my purpose, 4% per year is not enough as an income. So yes, the underlying stock could appreciate, so of course you're making more than 4%, but overall getting a yield of 4% per year on your capital for my purposes is not sufficient, because I would have to have $1 million in capital just to get $40,000 in dividends. So I look at other strategies where I don't need to have that much capital so that I can generate more income, like covered call trades or credit spreads. If you want to know what are the yields on these stocks, it's pretty simple. Just look it up. When you look up a stock on any platform, Yahoo Finance or your own brokerage, you can easily see what the yield is. So for example, if we take Activision, which was the first on the list, got a dividend yield of 0.61% per year. So as you can see, very little. Doesn't even cover inflation. But the stock is going to make up for it with capital appreciation. If you had bought at 42, right now it's trading at 61, that's a decent capital appreciation in 1 year. But the problem is, like, it can go up, it can also go down. Like, some people bought it here when it was trading at 83. And now it's down to 42 and then 61. So that's why I don't really like buy and hold, because as you could see, if you pick the wrong stock, you're going to get burned. If you buy a stock like MasterCard and Visa, then of course capital appreciation is the best. 5 years ago, MasterCard was trading at $90. Now it's at $323. But not everyone can pick the right stocks. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. And if you can open an account with Questrade to trade on the stock market, use my referral code in the description below the video to get up to $250 back. Thanks for watching.